Someone stole $25,000 from me. It ended costing him $500,000. A preamble. I was married to a very OCD and pragmatic man. For example, for him, a big romantic gesture had been to leave me alone for 24 hours at the hospital right after I had our son, so he could go pay bills and mow the lawn. 20 years later. Do understand he really did express love this way. But that's another story. I was in dire need of physical contacts because he'd never touched me, unless he wanted very bland sex, and also never ever kissed me. The story is not about him. It's only a preamble. So, I divorced him. Not just for what's above mind you. I felt alone and unloved in this relationship. I just wrote about it to explain the state of mind I was in when I met this other person that we'll call PS. PS was the total opposite. He was very in tune with his emotions. He was very, very intense. This will be important later. He really expressed love like I thought not I needed. On our first date, the waitress asked how long we had been together since he was so into me and touching me. He made me feel amazing. He had a huge house and a rather flashy lifestyle, so I assumed he was really well off. He told me he owned a car wash and a phone marketing company. Fast forward a bit. At this point, we had been dating for about a year, and he had just asked me and my son to move in with him. I wasn't 100% sure, but he prepared the room for my son nonetheless. As I started spending more time in his house, still keeping mine, I also started to see strange behavior. He'd be up all night but sleep all day. I also overheard a few phone calls where I was telling people they owed money and needed to pay, but the conversations didn't fit with a car wash or phone marketing business. At some point, he told me he was having money. Problem, he said huge clients were late in paying, and that was jeopardizing his house payments. So I, stupid me, offered to help. I'm missing a part of this story because it started as me offering help with the house since we were there a lot, still had my house though, but it ended up with me lending him $25,000. I cannot for the life of me remember that progression. The loan was supposed to be for 3 weeks, he said. I'd have it all back in 3 weeks. 3 weeks! That $25,000 came from my retirement savings son's college money, so I had to pay a fine to access it. It's also money it took me 10 years to put aside. That money was very important to me. During those 3 weeks, I went out to have drinks with my friends and found him on a date with another woman. I saw him French kissing another woman. I said nothing, went to his house, packed my shit, and left. So anyway, I thought he'd be an adult and would still reimburse the $25,000 the end of this 3 weeks. Big mistake. Someone I knew told me he was glad I left and proceeded to tell me about him. He said PS was a junkie, hooked on GHB, hence why he was so intense and so into his emotions. That also explained the erratic sleep-night patterns, but the final blow, when he told me, PS was also a con man, a specialist in defrauding older people by phone. His so-called phone marketing company. In the beginning, I wasn't sure I believed it. But then bits of what I had overheard in the last year started to make sense, and I realized it was all true. Back to this later. I tried having my money back many different ways. None worked. I was at the end of my rope. And since it was in my years post-divorce, and right after the 2008-2009 economic crash as well, I was poor as hell. So this is what I did. First, he had given me access to pay bills online, not to his bank accounts, but to his emails. So I was able to investigate all his accounts with the same password. I printed or screenshotted every little bit of information relating to money. I found proof that he was indeed scamming people and found the people he worked with and even the name of the person at Western Union who facilitated the money transfer. I found out he was an organized criminal. I also found out he did this between the two countries. I started preparing strike one. Strike one. So for strike one, I printed his face and the face of everyone working. For with him, from their online profiles, in defrauding people and left hundreds of flyers in his neighborhood. I also called the hotline for financial crime prevention in both the countries and gave very specific details and names. Know that even if he had given me the money, this goes against my core values and I would have done the same thing either way. At this point, I was preparing strike two too. Strike two. I was dumb in lending him money, but at least I did it the right way. I wrote a check I didn't do cash, I wanted proof just in case. It would turn out to be a great idea. On the check, I had written that it was a loan. Thank you, Judge Judy, for this tip. Since he didn't pay me back, I prepared an invoice and sent it to me from his hacked email. When the time came to do my taxes, I filed the $25,000 as an expense using this invoice. I have many freelancers, I slid him as one of them, and it passed. Don't ask me how I got his social security number. I can't remember, but I ended up having access to it, so ratted him out to the IRS for hiding income. I found out later on through friends that the IRS started investigating him for unpaid tax. I heard he had to pay 38%. Taxes on that $25,000 plus pay a 20% fine for not declaring income. At this point, I was satisfied. I figured $9,500 in taxes plus $5,000 in fines was 50% of what he owed me. At least he didn't get away with it all. But remember, I told you on the check I had written that it was a loan, so I took about 2-3 years. But I took him to court and won. He didn't even show up. So he has to reimburse the full $25,000 plus court fees, plus what he owes to the IRS, so it's $39,500 that he was to pay for not reimbursing $25,000. To this day, I still haven't seen a cent. But the rest of the story makes it worthwhile. For a while, I thought the financial crime call I made had no effect. Now the cherry on top. What I didn't know at the time is that the IRS would team up with wire fraud, division, and look at everything he did. They were not able to catch him on the wire fraud. But since the house he had did not fit with the money he was declaring, they got him on tax evasion and gave him a certain delay to pay back taxes. I heard it was only 3 months, but I don't know if it's accurate. They got him so good, they ended up freezing his accounts, and he lost his house. The bank foreclosed it, and his debt to the IRS is still open. We are not in the US, so he won't go to jail for this, however. But my $25,000 that he did not want to repay ended up costing him over $500 million. And since you cannot go bankrupt for a debt you owe to the government, I'm happy to tell you that at 40, he had to move back with his parents and ask for welfare and will probably be paying this for the rest of his life. This story is not finished, however. I just learned that he now has a job as a concierge in the apartment building of his parents. So, I'll be contacting the court to have the money he owes me taken directly from his pay. The thing is, he has no idea I'm the culprit of all his bad fortune, and he recently sent me a message telling me he misses me, that I was an angel for him, and that he regrets what he did. Well, not me, loser, not me. Look at it. This is my son who told me about this subreddit and our nuclear revenge initially, as he absolutely loves the revenge stories. I only had an account to see. Are interesting as fuck. He didn't really know that story, but now obviously does. Today he called me up from the basement ultra happy and excited to tell me the story. Blew up on YouTube, where all teenagers seem to hang now. So thank you all. My son feels like I was about to say little, but he is taller than me. D*.